morning, everyone, and welcome to the PivotBoss pre-market video for Wednesday, November 5th, 2025. I am Frank Ochoa, aka PivotBoss. Happy hump day, everyone. Before we get to the charts, I do want to invite you to our November market outlook later today, Wednesday, November 5th at 3 p.m. Central Time. We're going to talk futures analysis and trade ideas. We're going to talk crypto analysis and long-term trade ideas for Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP. We're also going to do some industry group spotlights, including the crypto group, nuclear, space, quantum, and we have a ton of great key range candidates that are going to give us some awesome levels to work with actionable entries and targets that could play out over the next 1 to 2 quarters. We got some great year-end stuff here, so you're going to want to join us later on this afternoon. This is a free event. You can join us via the Discord Premium Trading Room if you're a member, or you can join us via the Zoom link, which you can find in the description below. You can also find it here at this link above and click on that link to join. So later on this afternoon at 3 p.m. Central, join me for the November 2025 market outlook. All right, let's take a look here at the ES in the daily time frame right now. You'll see right now, previous session, big high range sell-off in the previous session here. Bit of selling pressure, and today in overnight trading, a little bit of a drop and bounce. Big time reaction happening right here. This is a significant zone in the chart. Right here in that 6,800 zone, very important. 6,700 zone, very important. Down here for this market, right in this area, because we've been trending up, and any pullback into this zone offers an opportunity for bulls to defend and check mark this thing higher into the rest of the month. And that's kind of been the pattern here that we've seen here lately. This type of pullback, this type of pullback, this 2-day pullback, 3-day pullback, 2-day pullback, 1 day. It doesn't matter here. The end result has been up, up, and to the right. So again, we could be looking at another one of those developing here soon. Now, this thing is at risk of falling further. So for example, if we have a failure today, plays out like today, but it really doesn't get going to the upside, failed new high tomorrow, outside day down, that could really trigger a massive wave lower. But again, we just haven't really seen that. Even when the participation to the downside has been super heavy, we've seen a very responsive bounce back. And we're seeing already some of that in the crypto markets as well. After heavy sell-offs the previous session, decent bounce backs here, heading into the RTH Open for Bitcoin and ETH. All right, looking at the intraday for this one, if price can continue to hold 67.70, this has a shot to really start to push back above 6,800 and 68.10 or to open up some upside. That type of return would take you back to the previous session's midpoint at the very least. If it can get some of that lift, the previous session's low is going to be in play. All right, looking at the NQ, similar price action here for the NQ. You can see the NQ's been trending higher here within this very clear structure. We've now had a pullback that is in line distance-wise, time-wise with what we've seen previously in line. And now we're seeing a bit of a recovery off the overnight lows. We're seeing a higher low off the 25,400 level. Nice intraday level there. That's very similar to the 6770 level in the ES. So 25,400 here, a key level to watch early intraday. And if this thing can recover the previous session's low, you have a shot to get back to the previous session's mid at about 25.8. So there is a shot to get a little bit of a bounce back here. And again, if there's a failure of this thing to get going, say we fail through 25.4 later on today, that could be a big time sign of weakness here for this market. But overall, this thing's been trending up. This is a pullback that is in line with what we've seen. We could see another buying opportunity for a continuation ahead develop over the next several days. All right, looking at, let's take a look here at crude oil. This one's down about 0.5% right now. Look at this compression right here. That's big time compression. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 days if you want. That's a huge, huge range of compression. We can bring this up a little bit more right here, and we can make this a 10-day reading. There it is. To quantify that 10-day reading right there, you can see that normally we'd have 6 points of range. We currently have 2.95 points of range, so we're at about 45% of average. And that's for this entire range right here. In a downtrend, at the top end of the channel, do we start to see a failure and a rotation back down? Remember, we're in a bearish seasonal tendency right now, or seasonal pattern. So any strength could be sold. That strength right there was defended. Now we've had an inability to recapture another round of strength, and instead this heaviness could breed way to weakness up ahead. But really the compression can see expansion in any direction, so be mindful of that. But at the moment, the directional conviction has been down, especially after strength. And this move right here could get us at least 6 points of range up ahead, maybe as much as 8. You know, if you're thinking about a breakdown through, call it 60, 60 minus 8 would put you to 52. 60 minus 6 puts you at 54 if we're headed lower. So again, at least 6 points of range could be up ahead through 60 here. Do we drop into that 54? And if so, that could be a first test bounce off that 54 area. All right, let's take a look here at gold futures. Gold here up about 0.5% as well. Also within a very narrow range. We can quantify this range over the last 7 days. We can go higher as well. You can see a 10 works just fine. If we kind of bring it in a little bit more, again, for 7 days here, you can see a little bit more compression. 158 points of range. Normally we'd be at about 300. That seems about right here. Do we get about a 300 point move up ahead? That'd be the average right now based on this wild volatility we've had. But even if we don't get that average, what if we get 250 to 300 points? That's still quite a bit. Breaking through 3,900, does that mean a 200 point drop? 200 to 300 point drop takes you between 3,600 and 3,650 on the way down. That's also your previous quarter's midpoint, 3,600. So are we headed back 300 points this way, or do we break through the top here and make a move back within the upper market structure here? So that's going to be a key range, key compression as well to watch, similar to crude oil moving forward. All right, let's take a look here at the YM. YM pullback, very much in line, like we said, with the ES and the NQ, but less weakness than we've kind of seen out of the others as well, and less weakness than what we've seen out of this one itself recently. This one has had a little bit bigger pullbacks than some of the other markets, but has responded with great recoveries. This pullback is not as deep as usual for itself, and it's not as deep as what we've seen currently. Well, it's not super deep in the ES and NQ just yet either, but we could stand to see a little bit more weakness. 47K though is the big level. We talked about this yesterday pre-market. 47K came down, hit it twice and bounced, holding barely. If this thing fails at 47, there's some potential downside that can take you to 46 and 45. But if it can hold 47, does it start to open up a move into 49 up ahead? So 47 is the big level here to continue to watch. Inside day right now developing. And if we bring this back to a 1 day right here, we can get the current 1 day stats. 50% of ADR. This thing has been averaging 460 here and 470 on a 10 and 5 day basis. So inside day compression here. Is this going to be able to recover and bounce it back up, or do we need a little bit more downside here? Nice little compression over the last couple of days. 4,700 is very, very important here. We'll see which way it goes here fairly soon. All right, looking at Bitcoin. Bitcoin with a big test. That was a huge drop into the 100K level. 100K, we mentioned, is the big level to watch here. And 100K to 95K, we've mentioned basically since, what was it, July? Since this level right here, back in July, and again repeated in August, we mentioned that the first potential entry could be between 95 and 100K. The first potential long-term entry. This is the first time we're dipped into that zone, and we're already bouncing quite a bit. We bounced as much as 3,000 points off those lows. Today's 99,285. That's a 4,000 point bounce off those lows nearly here, with a range of 38.40 today. Really good initial reaction, and what you see off these 25,000 levels is some significant clean reactions off those levels. You don't see a lot of mess off those 75, 100, 125, even the 50K levels. It's just very, very clean. There's your 75 test. There's your 50 test. That's your 75 breakout. That's your 75 test. Just very, very clean levels, and we're seeing another clean reversal here. Is this going to be a touch and go? This thing could touch and go back to the midpoint of the expanding range. Maybe we get up to new highs here. Maybe sometimes we get a little bounce and we need the double bottom here or the lower low, kind of like it did back here on the 75 level, and then we're going. So this doesn't necessarily mean the train is leaving the station, but it's at least a good reaction and a good test off our 100K key level. That's going to be big, because if a failure happens through 100K, a transitional move, that could open up some selling pressure into 75 below. All right, looking at ETH, this one had a horrible day yesterday with a drop of 11%, a big time transitional move through 3,600, and then hit year-to-date VWAP for the first time since July. This is a big test at value. Does the market see this area as a zone to be defended and bought? That's the 200-day moving average here. That's yearly value, and it dropped right into that pocket and currently is bouncing right back out. Heading into the RTH Open, if we're above yesterday's midpoint on the futures, you're going to get some MGR buy signals in the crypto ETFs. That could lead to early strength as well, depending on how this thing plays out. So big time early response here. Do we get lower? When we made it up to about 4880 over here, 4800, we mentioned that the earliest entry would be between 3,000 and 3,200. This is also the first time we're entering that zone for a big time potential push. But like I said before, if there's a failure here or maybe a lower low, we could get some decent pricing here a little later. If there's a failure to really respond off this level, there's much more downside that could be hit, 2570 for example. So first time testing into these big zones. We'll continue to watch those areas. All right, remember, later on this afternoon, we have a market outlook, 3 p.m. Central Time, using the link in the description below. Looking forward to seeing you all there. Everyone have a great rest of your day. I'll see you in the trading room. Take care.